The Miami Dolphins are not to blame for Tua Tagovailoa's multiple concussions. That's a trash narrative. Let's go. So it's not clickbait. I really think Tua Tagovailoa was left for dead by the Miami Dolphins on Thursday Night Football in front of the nation, in front of the country in Cincinnati. This organization has done nothing to deserve the benefit of the doubt of telling us and telling the public that Tua Tagovailoa did not suffer a concussion on Sunday against Buffalo. They're trying to tell us that it was a back injury. I've had a back injury. I threw out my back in high school doing track and field. That injury did not look like the same thing Tua Tagovailoa suffered on Sunday. That was a concussion. I don't care what independent doctors had to say. I don't care what team doctors that are literally paid by the team had to say. That man suffered a concussion. For 4 days later, to go back out there against Cincinnati and suffer another one, the replays are catastrophic. They're stark. To have his fingers spaz like that and frozen, that level of athleticism, meshing on both sides where you have grown men basically doing car crashes every single play. The fact that Tua Tagovailoa, who isn't the biggest quarterback in the world, he's not Josh Allen, that's a statuesque 6'5", 6'6", that can withstand the pounding. He's not Ben Roethlisberger, the two-time rapist, who was a statue back there but had the Hulk to take on all those beatings. This is a smallish dude. This is a dude that's akin to the fraudulent Drew Brees. This is a dude that's akin to Mr. Cornball or Mr. Unlimited Russell Wilson. And he's taken a beating, 2 concussions in 4 days. What has the Miami Dolphins done to make us want to believe them? We know what just happened this past summer, where they lied multiple times about Tom Brady and the ownership stake, and then retiring and unretiring to replace Tua Tagovailoa. We know about Sean Payton being a part of that Tom Brady package. We know about Stephen Ross lying about telling Brian Flores he needs to tank so they can improve their draft position. All those things happened. They literally were caught tampering. And now we're supposed to believe in their team doctors? In this independent doctor that also said Tua didn't suffer a concussion? Why is Mike McDaniel tripling down the fact that he would never let a player go out there and hurt themselves or put themselves in a position where they could further hurt themselves? This is football. This is literally what they do every single play. They're having car crashes, head-on collisions every single play. So what do you mean you're telling me you're trying to protect Tua Tagovailoa? You would never put any player, much less Tua Tagovailoa, out there. And now they're telling us he got discharged from the hospital. He was able to ride home with the team, flying home on the charter. And there's been former players throughout that have been like, I had a concussion. They didn't tell me to do that. Mike McDaniel wants us to believe that Tua was up there watching a movie with him on the plane. Players have come out and said, yeah, that's not how you treat a concussion, dog. Like, if you want to lie to us about that first one and say that it was a back injury when it clearly wasn't, or if he did have a back injury, that wasn't the primary injury. Man's got up, started wobbling, and went back down. That's not a back injury. If your back is fucked up, you can't move. You can't move. He never held his back. He never made the motion of my neck and my back. He never did that. Man's was wobbly. He went up into that tent, came back out, and all of a sudden, second half, there he is. That man was concussed. That man was concussed. So even if we want to take their word and say, all right, if he had a back injury, sure. But he also had some kind of concussion, some side of head injury, some kind of brain trauma. 4 days later, we're going to put him out here against Cincinnati when he is not even cleared. The NFL was investigating the concussion protocol that was followed from Sunday. Yet he was put back out there Thursday. How is the investigation so much so that it's not done yet? How does that allow Tua Tagovailoa to slide out and play again? What type of protocol is this? And you have the NFLPA, and look, I've been very vocal about their lack of leadership and their lack of really going for the players and having their back. They're one of the weakest unions in all of professional sports. But even they finally had to put their foot down. And DeMaurice Smith, or as, disgraced former coach Spider XY Banana John Gruden called him, Dumb Morris Smith, had to be out there and finally put his foot down. He says, we need to further investigate this. This is problematic. Oh, well, maybe if you would have been this gangster, if you would have had this type of tough talk in the last CBA, then maybe Lamar Jackson wouldn't be having to turn down Kyler Murray money. Okay, go get them men guaranteed money because they deserve it. Doctors have said that have researched CTE, brain trauma, head injuries, that it takes up to 4 weeks to recover from one concussion. And this is just one concussion. It's not even the severity, or it could be mild to severe. 4 weeks for one concussion. Tua Tagovailoa suffered a concussion of some kind, whether it was mild and then the back injury was more, primary and the concussion was secondary. No matter what, he had some sort of head trauma against Buffalo. You can't tell me your head bounces off the turf. You get up, you're wobbly, you're taking a knee when you're helped up. Something happened in that man's head. It takes 4 weeks for that to heal. The Dolphins waited 4 days and put him back out there, and he suffered another concussion. So now he has 10 days off. He went to the hospital, he was discharged, he was cleared. He's putting out statements that he's good, prayers up, fins up, Tua, all of this type of stuff. Tua Non is very happy that their Lord and Savior seems to be on the mend and is okay. But he has 10 days to heal up. If you have 2 concussions, and I guess I have to put allegedly, since the Dolphins team doctors and the independent doctor didn't want to confirm that there was a first concussion. If you have allegedly 2 concussions in 4 days and you have 10 days of rest, which we know isn't full rest because they're still going to be practicing next week. Like, there's going to be pads next week, Thursday. So 7 days after that second concussion in 4 days, he's going to be putting on pads again. Is that enough time? Show me the medical research that you could suffer allegedly 2 concussions in 4 days and still be able to go out there and handle contact within 10 days. I refuse to believe that there's a doctor with any type of credibility that isn't biased, that isn't influenced by either the team or the Shield as a whole. Because again, you have to remember with these independent doctors, there's a cachet in that. So even though you're independent, it's not like they're just going online and just picking an independent doctor. Those doctors have to be approved by whomst? Yes, the Shield, the NFL. You can't just go get your mans in them that's a doctor. You can't just go get your cousin's brother's sister's uncle's husband that is a doctor and say, well, that's who I want to be the independent. They have to pass the same type of strict, qualifications and vetting process like team doctors in the first place. So how independent really are they? But I'm supposed to believe that just because you throw the word independent in front of it, just like the NFL had an independent arbitrator for the Deshaun Watson case, and we saw how that turned out, right? What is the process here as an outsider that's supposed to believe what's being fed to us? How am I supposed to believe this independent doctor, this independent arbitrator, when clearly they have to be approved by the Shield in the first place? We have learned so much about concussions, brain injuries, head trauma, CTE throughout the last 5 to 10 years, mainly because football players and other athletes have been killing themselves, have been dying as a result of brain trauma from these sports that we love to watch them perform in. This is now becoming a problem where you can have a young player like Tua, whose career is on the line. He hasn't been who we thought he was. Clearly, the last coaching regime was trying to get him up out of there. They were flirting with Deshaun Watson. Clearly, they were not a believer in Tua when they were literally just this past summer entertaining the thoughts of having Tom Brady and Sean Payton pull up and be the new QB head coach package. Clearly, this organization, despite all the stuff that Mike McDaniels is trying to say publicly to act like Tua's the guy, he's the face, we believe in him. Despite all of that, we have evidence to the contrary where they were clearly trying to get rid of him. So he knows he's on the clock. It's Dame time for Tua Tagovailoa. And if it's Dame time for Tua Tagovailoa, he needs to perform right now. And that might mean telling the team doctors, I'm okay, I'm ready to go. That might mean telling the independent physician, I'm good. Don't need a second, third, fourth, fifth opinion. I'm good. Because he knows this is it. They've given you talent. You could argue that over the last couple of years they've been bereft of talent. That is no longer the case When Tyreek Hill is putting up the numbers that he's putting up, when Jalen Waddle is showing you the premise or the promise that we've seen from college to transitioning now to the pros, he's him. He has 2 bona fide receivers. He has a running game. He has a tight end. He has weapons around him. There is no more any excuses for Tua Tagovailoa. So the time is now. Is that enough incentive for him to say or tell team doctors, I'm good. It's my back. It's not my head. I know my head bounced off the turf. I know I had some whiplash, but it's my back. Everyone involved from the Miami Dolphins side, from Tua Tagovailoa, from Mike McDaniels, to this coaching staff, to the training staff, to the front office, to the owner, they're all incentivized to have Tua go right back out there 4 days after having a concussion. They're all incentivized. So yes, they left that man for dead. Tua left himself for dead because he knows this is it. This franchise clearly was looking for something, and they thought they had it in Tua Tagovailoa. Then they realized he was not going to be enough. So they went out there with a good defense already intact, went out there and loaded up on offense. This is supposed to be the year. Even though there's been many pundits that have been more wait and see than jumping out there on that limb to say, no, the Dolphins are for real. Now, after a 3-0 start, the pundits have had to come around and say, oh, no, wait, the Dolphins might be actually for real. And because of that, they finally get a prime time spot to showcase who they are. 3-0, fresh off beating the Bills, a lot of people's perennial Super Bowl favorite. Now, Tua Tagovailoa has a chance to show the country in a national primetime spotlight that he really is him. He just needed talent like he had at Bama. Give me the horses and I could run. I could drive this. But fresh off a concussion, 4 days later, thrown back out there. Now everything has to be thrown in. If this man's career is forever changed, if this man's livelihood is shortened in any kind of way, who's responsible? I am a player. I can only say so much. You're supposed to have people that are more educated than me in this science of brain trauma and head injuries that should be able to tell me, I know you want to go back out there, but I cannot do that. We've seen QBs. Mahomes was held out of the playoff game because of a concussion. So it can be done. But clearly in Miami, because of what they have on the table, because of all the stakes, their owner is old as fuck. He wants to see a chip. Why do you think he was trying to get Brady and Sean Payton? You think that's a long-term plan? That's a short-term plan. Why do you think he was even flirting with Jim Harbaugh, trying to get him to pull up from Michigan before the alleged Brady-Sean Payton package? Allegedly, it might have been Brady and Harbaugh as the original duo package because Stephen Ross is a UM alum. So why am I to believe that this organization that had the wherewithal to disguise a concussion as a back injury is not responsible for putting that same player right back out on the field 4 days later? Why am I going to give them the benefit of the doubt? I'm not. I don't think you shouldn't. And if Tua Tagovailoa's career is shortened in any kind of way, he better hit the books and hit the streets and go get himself a good-ass lawyer and get the Miami Dolphins about the paint.